Is it school's sports day, summer camp, with freshly made beds, eat all you can buffet, and the inevitable video games? Or how about some pool? And why can't we see their faces or hear their voices? Here's why. Because these children are in a detention camp, held against their will, first in giant cages in this warehouse on the Texas border with Mexico. Tin foils for comfort blankets. Eventually separated from their parents. Under President Trump's new zero-tolerance policy, their parents are now being prosecuted for crossing illegally into the US. This means the children and minors need to be detained separately. More than 2,000 in 6 weeks and counting. The point of this policy: deterrence.
Because it was in a speech in May 7th that Jeff Sessions announced this new policy that actually started a little bit earlier, the month earlier. But clearly they were saying if we're going to start arresting as a criminal matter and detaining people, we need to have much bigger detention camps. Oh, well, we better get some more money into that. And now the administration has just put out a draft, a regulation in which they intend to establish internment camps so that to lock up children behind barbed wire. So
here we go, guys. A new policy from the Trump administration, in addition to maybe a replacement of the zero tolerance policy, in terms of putting children not just in cages but behind barbed wire. Now, there are so many things, especially today, that are connecting to this video. The barbed wire, the childlike figures being behind it. I think that may be a pretty clear reference. And then what they're also saying is that the Trump administration has taken $10 million out of the FEMA budget and put it into the ICE budget. Now that ties into my previous video where I talked about, in a catastrophic event, they're going to prioritize the children because they just won't have the resources to support everybody. And that them taking 10 million from FEMA and putting it into ICE, and that being used to fund detention camps where they may be putting children behind barbed wire. Yeah, this is it. You guys will keep watching and we'll keep updating with all the different connections that are coming along. But you know, I can't remember how many videos I've made today. Maybe 4, 5. I don't know. I'll have to check. But the only reason I'm doing it is because as I'm researching, as I'm watching the news, I'm hearing things and they're instantly connecting me to this video. Children behind barbed wire, instant connection. Taking money out of FEMA, putting into ICE for detention camps for those children. Here's another part to the story. I got a message from Doug Hendrickson who says that W77 is warning of the US East Coast having at least 10 nuclear power plants that are possibly in danger during this Hurricane Florence. In the background here, we have a nuclear reactor which has all this smoke surrounding it, which suggests a nuclear reactor meltdown. That could be because of the hurricane itself, which is represented by the goat's head spinning around. That would be Hurricane Florence. The nuclear reactor having a meltdown in the background. The floodlights, in my opinion, I can't see it, but I believe they would be powered by generators because this is a FEMA camp. The electricity has gone out. It's a blackout during the hurricane while we've got a nuclear reactor meltdown, which contributes to the winter-like scene we see here, nuclear winter. Again, it's not just the fact that we've got these FEMA camps. As I've said before, in the event of a large-scale disaster, such one that was so big that it affected a lot of people, the FEMA wouldn't be able to handle all that. So what would they do? They would prioritize. And who would they prioritize? It would be the kids, the children. And as a parent, it's very difficult to make a decision about your children in respect to them not being able to eat, not being able to drink water, just not being able to be children. So in that event, a lot of people are going to give up their kids. And those kids, just like the ones that were stolen away at the Mexico border, just like the ones that have been stolen away in Syria, they're going to be put into military installations. We already saw that with the kids from Mexico. They're using military bases to house the kids. Kids that grow up on military bases without any parents are going to be turned into child soldiers. And obviously those children will grow up knowing nothing but the people that have trained them. And if those people that have trained them are saying, us, the people like us, who would be viewed as the rebels in this kind of situation, those same kids would be the ones that we would have to fight. I know it's hard to kind of wrap the head around sometimes in some of these things, how evil and how manipulative they are. But think about the most innocent thing, well, the most innocent of all human beings would be placed in children, and this kind of snatching that innocence away and turning it into something else, manipulating it, so that they don't have to deal with people who have differing opinions and different beliefs. They don't have to worry about challenges to them, because everybody who is part of that system would have been raised by that system. It's incredibly twisted, but that's what they plan to do. They plan to take the children, turn them into soldiers. So when it comes to the final war, the people like us who would be the rebels, the ones who see what they're doing and would rebel against them, we would have to face people that have been completely brainwashed and completely subservient to the beast system, which is what it would be at that time. At this point in the video, when it's all dark and you've got the redness around George Bush, I believe that is the end point. So they put the end in the beginning, and the beginning, no, not the beginning and the end, but the end is definitely, the beginning is definitely the end, because we have the sound of the missile silo, which tells you more than likely it's a nuclear missile coming out of that missile silo. I've always got the sound off because I don't really like it, but just so you can hear that sound there, that was pointed out by JK. That sounds like a missile silo door opening, and then obviously out of that you get the missile, which would most likely be nuclear in this case. And the representation of the red is, you know, I think kind of like that explosion kind of thing, where you'd have this red glow around, also dark, and also the whole hanging with the, you know, just looking completely lifeless. Just gives you that whole kind of reference. Everything in this video is starting to come together, you guys. There are a lot of points along this video that are now making much more sense than they did before, and that's because we have something real to reference, something that we can actually track at the same time as we interpret. So Hurricane Florence is important, Hurricane Olivia is important, both Hawaii, the west coast, the east coast, all looking in immediate danger from today, which is now the 12th at 1:50 in the morning over here in the UK, through to I think the 15th is where things really spark off, especially in the Middle East as well. On that day, there may or may not be a tsunami. That could be on the 14th. I kind of differ between those 2 days. But after that, obviously, as I said, things aren't ending. The war is just beginning. Like the 15th is when everything is just kind of exploding out of the Middle East, and that means that through the month of September into October, probably into November as well, we'll be seeing war. And then after the war is finished, more than likely, China's going to be the one on top. And they've got their One China coin, which is a cryptocurrency, which obviously could be you know, the whole system could be placed on a chip or something like that. China is also advanced in AI technology. They also have the ghost cities ready for population. They've got the biggest army. Obviously, maybe not the most advanced, but they have the most personnel. So more ability to contain a small number of people. And obviously 2012 as well, that movie references China as having the Ark, where the Arks were built, which suggests to me that China is going to be the place where the beast system flourishes out of. At least we know that China, the animal symbol they have is the dragon, and obviously they were connected to the Tiangong-1 heavenly space station crashing down, which they called Heavenly Palace, heaven coming to earth. It's all a mockery of the Bible, and they really are manipulating every single word, phrase, verse, and chapter from the Bible in order to confuse and deceive the elect. But we know what the Bible says about deceiving the elect. It's not possible. So we'll keep watching, we'll keep waiting, I'll keep updating. The comments are proving to be very helpful. A lot of links to different things. I can't check them all because, you know, I'm trying to do the research and also reply to comments at the same time as, you know, the other responsibilities that I've got in my household. So, you know, kind of stretched a bit thin, but I hope you guys just take in the information and, you know, even if you don't agree, comment constructively, something we can build on rather than opposing each other on every single little topic, because it's just not worth it. We haven't got the time. We haven't got the time to argue with each other. We need to come together. This is the time where we come together as the body of Christ and we show the strength and the faith and the ability to withstand the enemy's attacks and be that, you know, the representation of good in the world that is so sorely lacking these days. You guys, look out for any nuclear power plants going into meltdown. I almost forgot to bring these up, but it kind of flows into a Russia theory. Already pointed out in the IPEC Goat video how we've got the shark fins, which seem to represent submarines, and then we've got the blue man dancing, changing into a bear, which obviously is the symbol of Russia. Russia hacks into US power plants, but nuclear reactors should be impervious. They say should be. There's no certainty in that sentence at all, which doesn't give me any comfort. According to an alert from the United States Computer Emergency Readiness Team, Russia has hacked into many of our government entities and domestic companies in the energy, nuclear, commercial facilities, water, aviation, and critical manufacturing sectors. Essentially, most of what makes America tick. I brought out this report when it came out in March, and here now in September, it has more relevance considering we may be looking at nuclear reactor meltdown. As I said, could be linked to the hurricane, could be linked to a tsunami or flood or an earthquake. Again, could be linked to a cyber attack. Could be multiple theories on that. But at the same time as we have this potential, Russia begins its largest ever exercise with over 300,000 soldiers. But it's not just Russian soldiers, China as well. They are sending a message that they are united as a military and that they would be able to confront a country like the United States, who is at the moment the most powerful military, which has at the moment the most powerful military on the planet. But looking at all these surprise attacks coming from all these different places that could affect places like Guam, the Marshall Islands, Taiwan, Japan, the East Coast and the West Coast, the United Kingdom, that's pretty much, you know, that's a lot of your assets kind of gone, leaving you in a very difficult situation. Then you've got the potential for Iran coming out and blocking the Straits of Hormuz. And then when the US Navy comes to stop them from doing that, another tsunami to wipe out the Navy. And then you've got the aerial attacks, and so we've got to keep our eyes open. Russia boasts its nuclear subs crept up to the US coast completely undetected to test American defenses. I'll report this report out as well. This also came out in March. So in March, not only did Russia sneak up to the US east coast with nuclear submarines and go back undetected, but they also hacked into the US nuclear reactors, water, aviation, and at the same time in March, they had their Russian spy ship sitting off the US that we talked about, and was wondering why the US wasn't really doing much about it. Obviously, they were sitting in international waters, so there's not much legally they could do about it, but there wasn't even a show of, any sort of defense. And I got a comment from Chickaboo saying that she thought I said that, well, Donald Trump is involved in all of this, but she thought I said that he gets shot, so it didn't make sense. Well, I just wanted to explain that because look at the situation, how it unfolds. We've got the media drawing, well, at least they were before all these other things started happening, drawing at every opportunity the connections between Donald Trump and Putin, how they seem so chummy, how Donald Trump can't confront Putin, how Putin must have something on Donald Trump. So from the majority of Americans' perspective, Donald Trump himself has not done anything to go against Russia or Putin. The administration itself has, but not Donald Trump, not in any of his rhetoric, not when he was standing on stage next to Putin, nothing. So if America is attacked and all these events we're talking about happens, and it's discovered that Russia is responsible or Russia is blamed, then what's going to happen next? Everybody's going to turn to Donald Trump and blame him for not doing anything about Russia, for not doing anything about Putin. And obviously, in that situation, we're talking about hundreds, thousands, possibly millions of people being affected by this attack, which, I can definitely tell you that people would be angry enough to do something about it, or at least try to do something about it, something Lincoln JFK style. And as we've seen in the video, the iPad code video appears to be a clear reference to the back of Donald Trump's head and a gun. Obviously, we now have 3D guns, which you can print. The information was put online, downloaded over 500,000 times before it was removed. So there's plenty of people out there that have these 3D gun plans. 3D printers are not that expensive anymore. Even if you couldn't buy one, you could probably rent one or pay to use one. 3D gun, undetectable. Probably the only weapon you could get past Secret Service. So there's a lot to watch for. As I keep saying that as like at the end of every video. There's a lot to watch for. Of course, there's a lot to watch for. These are the watching times. But that's what we're told to do, according to the Bible. Watch for the signs. We're seeing the signs. They're not just in the heavens, in the stars and the moon, like I said in the Bible, but we're seeing it down here on the earth as well, in terms of all the political activity, all the economic activity, and air quotes, natural disasters, wind, earth, fire, and water being used against us to make it look like it's natural.